You never picked anybody up that night." That's what the detective told me. I laughed. "I drove her almost 20 miles. He slid my dashcam across the desk. "Then explain why your truck never stopped." I thought he was messing with me. Every mile I drive gets recorded. Dashcam on the road, another one on the cab, GPS pinging every few seconds. If I pull over, there's proof. There's always proof. Except for those 3 minutes. After enough years on the road, the nights start blending together. Same gas station coffee, same static on the radio between towns. That night started like any other. I picked up a reefer trailer outside Amarillo right after the sun went down. Frozen food, no rush on the delivery. By midnight, the highway had gone quiet, just my headlights and the hum of the engine. Then I saw her. She wasn't walking, wasn't waving anybody down, just standing on the shoulder with a backpack against her leg. No car behind her, no hazards blinking, nothing. I drove past her. 10 seconds later, I checked my mirror. She hadn't moved. I don't pick up hitchhikers. Nobody does anymore. But something about the way she stood there got under my skin. Like she already knew nobody would stop. I kept driving. 5 seconds. 10. I looked in the mirror again. She still hadn't moved. I don't know why I hit the brakes. I just did. By the time she reached the door, I was already regretting it. I cracked the window. Cold air came in, and under it something faint, like wet pavement after rain, except the road was dry. "You okay?" She nodded. "Car broke down." "Where at?" "Back there a ways." She didn't look back when she said it. "You got a phone?" "Dead." "Anybody know where you're at?" A pause. Just long enough to notice. "Don't think so." I unlocked the door. She climbed up, set the backpack in her lap, and buckled the seatbelt without me saying anything. Almost nobody bothers with the passenger belt in a semi. I don't even think my own kids did. We drove without talking for a while. The heater ticked. Tires hummed under us. "How far you going?" she asked, still facing the windshield. "Arkansas." She nodded slow. I used to know this highway. Something about how she said it felt off, not like a memory, more like she was reciting directions from somewhere. Truck stoplights showed up 20 minutes later. I pulled in by the fuel pumps. "You'll be all right from here?" "Thanks." That was it. She got out, walked toward the store, didn't look back once. A truck pulled in between us, blocked my view for maybe 4 seconds. When it moved, she was gone. Not in the store, not by the pumps, gone. I figured she'd gone inside faster than I clocked. I got back on the road. 30 minutes later, I saw her again. Same backpack, same jacket, same posture, like she hadn't moved since I'd left her. I'd gone almost 300 miles since the truck stop. There was no way she could be standing there. I slowed down without meaning to. She didn't wave. She just watched the truck roll by, the way you'd watch a bus you weren't getting on. A pickup passed going the other direction, headlights sweeping the shoulder for a second. When it cleared, she wasn't there. I didn't stop this time. Before I realized what I was doing, I reached across the cab. The seatbelt was buckled. I remembered unbuckling it for her back at the truck stop. I remembered the click. I pressed the release. It popped open, normal as anything. "You're tired," I said out loud, to nobody. My voice sounded strange in the cab, too loud for how quiet it was. The rest of that drive, I didn't look at the mirror once. The next afternoon, after I dropped the load, I pulled the memory card. Truck slows on the shoulder. Door opens. Then the picture breaks into gray static. No error screen, no frozen frame, just snow, moving, like a TV with no signal. I checked the timestamp. 3 minutes exactly. When the picture comes back, I'm pulling into the truck stop. Passenger seats empty. Seatbelts already buckled, hanging there like nobody ever touched it. I sat in the cab a long time after that, just looking at the screen. 3 days later, I stopped at a diner off I-40 for coffee. Hadn't even ordered yet, when the waitress looked past me, out the window. "That your truck? Blue Freightliner?" "Yeah. You come through here before?" "Last week, maybe." She got quiet, wiped the counter down slow. not really cleaning anything. You ever pick somebody up out on the highway? She already looked like she knew the answer. She just wanted to hear me say it. I told her, a woman needed a lift to a truck stop. She didn't say anything back, just waved me around the counter to a corkboard covered in old clippings, curled yellow at the corners. She tapped one with her finger. That her? Same face, same jacket, same backpack. Local woman, still missing after highway breakdown. 8 years old. My stomach dropped. Not fast, more like it just kept sinking. There's gotta be a mistake. You're not the first drivers asked me about her. I sat in my truck in that parking lot for almost an hour before I could make myself drive again. That night, I found every article I could. Other drivers had asked about her too, over the years. None of the articles said why. 2 days after that, my dispatcher told me a detective wanted to talk. He met me at the terminal, notebook already open. I told him everything. The woman. Seeing her again 30 minutes later, 300 miles down the road. The static. He didn't interrupt once. We watched the footage together on his laptop. Same as before. Truck slows, door opens, 3 minutes of static. Then, the empty seat. He asked to keep the card. I let him. 2 days later he called and asked me to come back in. The card was sitting on his desk when I walked in. He turned the laptop toward me. This is the same file you gave me, he said. Watch it again. Truck slows, door opens. No static this time. The picture stays clear the whole way through. Passenger seat, empty the entire time. Nobody ever gets in. But the audio's still running. And on it, my own voice, asking questions into an empty cab. You okay? Nothing, answers back. You got a phone? Silence. Then road noise. How far you going? Silence. The detective pauses. He looks at me. Who were you expecting to answer? I'm talking to nobody, for almost 4 minutes straight. He turned the volume down and just looked at me. I watched it 3 times, he said. Wanted to make sure I wasn't hearing it wrong. I didn't have anything to say to that. He asked one more thing before I left. Quiet, like he almost didn't want to ask it. When you think back on that night, are you seeing the road, or are you seeing her, sitting there? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. That was the last I heard from him. Nobody ever charged me with anything, because there wasn't anything to charge me with. No case, no body, no proof I'd done a single thing wrong. I still drive nights. Same truck. But now when somebody rides with me, I don't really look at them. I look at the seatbelt. A few months after all that, I climbed in after fueling up at a stop outside Little Rock. Seat empty, same as I'd left it. Started the engine, reached for my coffee in the cup holder. Then I saw it. Seatbelt buckled. I know I left that thing hanging against the door. I always do. I unbuckled it, listened for the click, let it retract all the way back into the frame. Then I took a picture with my phone, just so I'd have proof, one way or the other. An hour later, at a way station, I opened the photo to look at it again. The seatbelt in the picture wasn't hanging against the door. It was buckled, same as if somebody had been sitting there the second I took it. I've gone back to that file more times than I want to admit. Checked the timestamp, checked the location tag. Nothing's edited. Nothing's wrong with the file. I still don't have an answer for it. Last month, I installed a new camera, angled straight at the passenger seat. My old cab camera covered the whole cab, wide angle, corner mounted. It never gave me a clean shot of the seat itself. I told myself that's all this was. A blind spot. Nothing more. 2 nights later, I stopped outside Oklahoma City for fuel. I locked the truck, walked inside, paid, came back less than 5 minutes later. The passenger seat was empty. The seatbelt was buckled. I checked the footage before I even started the engine. Nobody opened the door. Nobody climbed inside. Nothing moved. Then, right before the video ends, click, the seatbelt fastened itself. Are you him? A stranger sent me that, before I even knew what she meant. I typed back, him, who? She sent a screenshot. my profile picture, my name, my license plate. A trip that left her stranded 40 miles down, Interstate 40, alone, on the shoulder, in the dark, nothing around but mile markers. I never gave that ride, I wrote. Then who did? I didn't have an answer. Not then. It took me 2 weeks to even understand the question. It started with a 1-star review, 3 days before she ever messaged me. Driver left me on the highway, never coming back to this app. I read it twice before I even noticed my engine was still running. The trip had happened at 11:52 p.m. the night before, logged as a long-haul pickup, the kind I mostly run, ferrying people between rest stops and the airport 2 hours out, the routes nobody else wants because they eat half a tank of gas. That couldn't be right. I was already home by 10. My girlfriend had fallen asleep on the couch waiting for me. She even complained the next morning that I dropped my keys too loudly when I came in. I opened the trip details anyway. My name, my profile picture, my license plate. Pickup, the rest area, off. Exit, 214. No drop-off location. Just the passenger's complaint that I'd forced her out onto the shoulder of Interstate 40, 40 miles from the nearest exit, and driven away. I called support. There has to be a mistake. The representative paused. Our records show your registered vehicle completed the trip. I wasn't even driving. The GPS matched your registered vehicle for the entire route. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I honestly thought they had someone else's account open. They promised to investigate. My account stayed active. They called it an isolated incident. The first thing I checked was my aftermarket security app. It logs everything: door unlocks, engine starts, vehicle movement. Every event sends a notification to my phone. I scrolled back to 11:49. Driver door unlocked. Engine started. Vehicle in motion. I never received any of those alerts. Settings were still enabled. Then I checked the startup recording. The app automatically saves a 10-second video every time the engine starts. Every recording that month was there. Except one. 11:49 p.m. Recording failed. File size 0 kilobytes. I couldn't sleep. Around 2 in the morning, I went downstairs. The garage smelled like damp concrete. The car sat exactly where I'd parked it. I touched the hood. Warm. Not hot. Just warm enough that someone had driven it recently. I kept my hand there, trying to convince myself engines stayed warm longer than I remembered. They don't. 2 nights later, I picked up a fare at a truck stop off I-40. Airport run, 3 hours. About an hour into the drive, the passenger kept watching me in the mirror. You ever go viral? What? My buddy showed me a video. He shrugged. Looked like you. What kind of video? Some rideshare driver screaming at a woman on the shoulder, middle of nowhere. He looked at me again. Same jacket. I didn't answer. I found the clip that night. Shaky phone footage from another car. Headlights from passing trucks, washing everything in white light every few seconds. A sedan parked on the shoulder. A driver stood outside, same height, same jacket, same baseball cap. The passenger climbed out. The driver pointed down the empty interstate, then got back into the car and left. The comments were worse. He did this to me too. Same driver, same car. One woman attached her trip receipt, my profile, my rating, my plate. It was her, the same one who'd messaged me 2 weeks earlier, before I understood any of this. I read back through our old thread, my own answer to her still sitting there, unanswered on her end since the day I sent it. Then who did? I still didn't have anything better to give her. She eventually sent a voice message. Her voice barely shook. When he stopped, he asked me something. A long pause. He said, "What are you going to tell people about me?" Dast. Silence. I said I didn't know. Another breath. He smiled. Then he told me to get out. The recording ended. I listened to it 5 times. She never cried. That somehow made it worse. The complaints kept coming. Every week or two. Always my account. Always my plate. Always someone abandoned on a dark stretch of interstate. So I started documenting everything. Every shift I photographed the odometer before leaving, and again when I parked, time-stamped, emailed to myself. Something no one could argue with. 3 weeks later, another complaint appeared. Ride completed. 2:14 a.m. I smiled. Finally. My garage photo from that night was time-stamped 2:09 a.m., 5 minutes before the ride supposedly ended, 40 miles down the interstate. Proof. Then I compared it to the photo from the night before. The odometer in last night's photo already showed the same number as tonight's, 14 miles that shouldn't have existed yet. 14 miles the car had gained sitting parked in my garage before it had even left to supposedly drive them. I ran downstairs. The hood was warm, the engine clicked softly as it cooled. The driver's seat sat one notch farther back than I keep it. Enough to notice. Not enough to prove. When I came back upstairs, my girlfriend was awake. "You okay?" I thought I left the lights on. She looked at me for a moment, then reached into her pocket. She placed my spare key on the counter. "I found this in your jacket." I stared at it. I hadn't carried that key in months. "You put it there?" I shook my head. She didn't argue. She simply nodded. That scared me more than if she'd called me a liar. I sold the car. Different make, different color, different plate, new rideshare account under my middle name. I stopped taking long highway trips, only airport runs, nothing farther than the city. For a while, nothing happened. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. "You sold me the gray Accord?" "Yeah. I think there's something wrong with it." "What happened?" "I don't even drive rideshare." A long pause. "But I got an email this morning." My stomach dropped. He read it. "Passenger safety complaint received." Another pause. The email included your name. 5 minutes later, my own phone buzzed. Support. Another complaint. Different account. Different vehicle. Same passenger description. I quit driving for almost a month. Bills eventually won. I signed up again. Different company, different city, different account. Only short rides, never highways, never after midnight. I never told my girlfriend why. Last Tuesday, I finished my final ride just before midnight. 4 exits, normal passenger, nothing strange. I parked outside my apartment. 5 stars. Trip complete. I shut the app. My phone buzzed. No name, no number, just 4 words. What will they believe? I didn't answer. I looked at the passenger seat. Empty. I actually laughed. Then I reached for my backpack. It wasn't there. I checked the back seat. Nothing. Opened the trunk. Nothing. As I closed the rear passenger door, something caught my eye. Hanging from the inside handle, my old rideshare key tag, the one I'd thrown away after selling the first car. I pulled it off. Folded behind it was a gas station receipt. Interstate 40. Exit 214. Time printed across the top. 11:52 p.m. The exact minute the first ride I never gave began. Dispatch told me never to answer calls from mile marker 66. I answered one anyway. The voice on the other end was calm. A woman. She said her car had broken down on the shoulder and she could see headlights coming toward her too fast. I was 7 minutes out. When I got there, the shoulder was empty. No car, no debris, no skid marks, just the night bugs hitting the reflective posts and the low hum of the interstate. I reached for the radio mic. Dispatch, I'm 10 to 23 at 66. Nothing here. Static. Then the same woman's voice came back through my speaker. Not the phone. Not dispatch. You're late. I stood there with the cruiser door open, the dome light spilling a yellow square across the asphalt. The air smelled like hot rubber and dry grass. Somewhere, far off, a semi shifted gears. I checked the MDT. The number that had dialed 911 had been disconnected since 2019. Back at the station, I pulled the old case file because the voice sounded familiar in a way I couldn't explain. 3 years earlier, a woman named Claire R. had gone off the road at exactly that mile marker after a tire blew. Single vehicle. No other cars involved. She was found the next morning, still buckled into the driver's seat. I listened to the original 911 recording. Same voice. Same cadence. Same sentence. I can see headlights coming toward me too fast. I carried the file to my sergeant. He stared at me longer than I liked. That's why we don't respond to 66 anymore. He closed the folder. Log it as a prank. And move on. I logged it. I didn't move on. 2 weeks later, another call came in. 2:17 a.m. Male voice. Breathing hard. Said he'd been run off the road by a dark pickup and thought his arm was broken. Mile marker 66. I was the closest unit. The shoulder was empty again. The dash read 61 degrees. The second I stepped outside, it felt 10 colder. I walked the white line with my flashlight. Something metallic glinted in the grass. A silver wristwatch. Cracked face. Still ticking. Stopped 3 hours behind the actual time. I bagged it. Back at the station, I ran the serial number. It belonged to a man killed at mile marker 66 in 2017. Then I opened the evidence database. According to the chain of custody log, that exact watch had already been returned to his wife 7 years earlier. I opened the original evidence photographs. Same cracked crystal, same scratch across the bezel, same serial number. The watch sitting in my evidence bag shouldn't have existed. The calls kept coming. Always between 1:40 and 3:10 in the morning. Always from numbers disconnected years earlier. Always describing crashes that had already happened. I started keeping my own notebook. Time, caller, vehicle, every detail. Every one matched a fatal crash somewhere between 2014 and 2021. No new accidents. Only old ones. Repeating. I showed everything to my sergeant. He barely looked. You're not the first one to notice. He slid the reports back toward me. You're just the first one this year who wouldn't leave it alone. One night, I was parked beneath an overpass drinking burnt coffee when the radio crackled. Unit 17. It wasn't dispatch. It was Officer Daniels. I'd recognize his voice anywhere. We used his dashcam recordings during academy training. Daniels had been killed in 2016 when a distracted driver hit his cruiser while he was writing a warning. At mile marker 66, the voice said my badge number, then my first name, then silence. I sat there until the coffee went cold. I requested a transfer. They moved me to days for 6 weeks. No calls, no voices, no mile marker 66. The first night, I rotated back. The radio came alive before midnight. A little girl's voice. My mommy's car won't start. A long pause. We're scared. Mile marker 66. I didn't answer. Another unit did. I listened over the radio. He arrived. Reported the shoulder empty. Then the little girl spoke again. Quietly. Mom. Another pause. He's driving away again. The transmission stayed open for 11 more minutes. Then it went dead. Nobody said another word. Last month, I drove out there off duty. 1:55 a.m. Parked on the shoulder. Engine idling. Hazards off. Windows down. County radio on. At exactly 2:03, the speaker clicked. A woman's voice. Calm. Clear. She gave my full name. Then my badge number. I can see your patrol car. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. The headlights behind you are coming too fast. I checked the mirror. Nothing. Just black highway. I checked again. Still nothing. Then the dashboard exploded white. Half a second. Bright enough to throw my own shadow across the windshield. Like a truck had blasted past with its high beams on. Except there was no engine. No headlights. No vehicle. The radio went silent. The MDT chimed. Dispatch had already attached the audio recording. I played it right there. The woman kept talking after the flash. After I'd have sworn the call had ended, she described my patrol car, my license plate, the dent in my rear bumper from last winter. Then she said, "The officer just drove away." I frowned. I was still sitting on the shoulder, engine idling, hands gripping the wheel. I hadn't moved an inch. Then she spoke one last time. "He left me here again." The recording ended. I looked up. The highway was still empty, but my engine was cold. I swear it had been running the whole time. I transferred to a desk job 3 counties over. I don't work nights anymore. I don't carry a radio. I don't listen to scanners. But every year, on the same date, at almost the exact same time, my personal phone rings once. Blocked number. I never answer. Last week it rang while I was standing in my kitchen. I watched it stop. A text arrived a second later. No number, no sender, just 2 lines. Badge #411 mile marker 66. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for riding with me tonight. If you enjoy realistic highway horror stories, subscribe. I upload new stories every week.